This is the second video tutorial for dBMacros by noisetools.net. In the first video, we looked at processing the open spreadsheet. Starting with raw data, the datasheet was rearranged to fit the layout conventions, and then we manually generated graphs using the toolbar. However, all this can be automated upon multiple data files with this button here. Before, we selected the generic option. If you choose this option for the folder import, then it will look for files of various known text file formats and combine them all into a single workbook. However, it's always best to select a known sound level meter wherever possible, as the macros will know exactly what to look for, including the location of the time data and any accompanying audio files. Let's look at an example. The Norsonic NOR140, which we used a lot at the consultancy, generates profile and global files in subfolders labeled by their date. When you import one of these folders, it will open the first workbook to determine the settings of the sound level meter and provide options based on this information. It will look for subsequent dates and provide a drop-down list of all the files so you can specify which ones you'd like to include. You can also choose which data columns to include and how to label the files and the graphs. This way, we can convert weeks of noise monitoring in just a few clicks. Once completed, the folder contains many Excel files that were generated with the processed data and the graphs ready for use. The data is split over many files to keep the file sizes reasonable. There are many other options depending on the sound level meter. Here, it's possible to convert the time interval as you import the data, for example, from 100 milliseconds to 1 second. This button here will extract all the data from the global files into a single workbook. Many other sound level meters are also available, and more will be added in the future. The webpage in the description has detailed information about all of them. When recording audio, some sound level meters will include information about the audio files alongside the decibel levels. The macros will attempt to use this information. When processed, the audio data will be split into the following three columns. Audio file, this stores the current audio file name. It's repeated so you can safely delete unwanted rows from your datasheet. Audio timestamp, this stores the current position within the audio file. Audio recorded, this is for plotting on a graph to illustrate where there is audio available. With this in mind, we have the following click tool. This displays the audio information for the point that you clicked. While the pop-up window is visible, you can click other points to inspect the audio at other positions. The macros will look for the audio file in the same folder as the current Excel workbook. If the file is found, then you'll have the following actions. Rather than just listen to the audio file, you can go further with the Export to Webgraph feature. With this, you can create and share an interactive graph of your sound level data that plays along with your audio file, known as a webgraph, using an internet browser web tool found at noisetools.net/dbwebgraph. We'll go through an example here. The selected graph will be exported to match as closely as possible when loaded in the webgraph. Spectrum data, where available, will also be included, and any labels found on the datasheet will be added. If the datasheet includes audio information, then this will be used to find the audio file and start time. Otherwise, you'll need to find the audio file yourself and determine the audio time offset manually. The macros will generate new text and audio files. These will need to be loaded into the browser in order for the dBWebgraph page to have access to the files. This is done either by dragging into the window or using the button to load the files with the browser's file selector. From here, you can play through the data and listen to the audio. The audio can optionally be clipped and compressed. Other options available for your web graphs include adding your own footer text, such as your company name, share text for informing others about your desired restrictions regarding sharing, and a splash screen to include text at the beginning. There's also the option to host the file permanently on your own web space so that they can be shared with others. This will be discussed at the end of the video. The macros automate Excel's native features, and the graphs and worksheets generated by the macros can be shared with others who do not have dBMacros installed. However, when using the free db functions, you should bear in mind that Excel will attempt to recalculate these formulas. If you open a workbook that contains, for example, dbAverage on a device without the add-in installed, when Excel attempts to recalculate it, it will find that the function referenced is missing and the result will change to the name error value. This is why the macros provide the choice between adding calculated values as a value or a formula. The formula allows for recalculating, but the values are fixed and can be shared without problems. There are also two macros that can help with sharing. The first is built into the add-in and is for when you are opening a workbook from another user of dbMacros, or when you share the workbook between your own devices. When you open any workbook while the add-in is installed, dbMacros will check to see if any of the formulas are not correctly referencing the add-in and will offer to fix the referencing to be local so that the formulas can recalculate. It will see something that looks like this and localize it to look like this. This can also be run manually from within the Functions toolbox. The second macro is the Purge Workbook option. This will automatically fix all formulas to their values. It's useful for sending a minimal Excel file as it will offer to strip out all extra data and formatting, leaving you with a raw spreadsheet of just values. Let's look at uploading web graphs with FTP. Please note, this is about to get quite technical. It's recommended that you only continue with this feature if you understand the terminology involved. When generating a web graph, you can choose to upload to the internet. When you choose this, the files will be uploaded via FTP to your web server. This requires you to enter the server hostname, the username, and the password. You also must specify the folder to upload to and how this folder maps to a domain name. The macros will then generate a URL that you can share with others. For this URL to work, noisetools.net must be able to access these uploaded files on the server. You can use the Test Configuration button to verify that this is the case. First, a test file will be uploaded to the hosting and loaded in your browser. Then the web tool at noisetools.net will verify that it can also access the uploaded file. There are often security restrictions on these files called cross-origin resource sharing that means you have to opt in to letting noisetools.net access these files. If it's a Linux server, then you can try to opt in automatically by uploading an htaccess file to the webgraphs folder that includes the following code for doing this. Now let's talk about security. This process of uploading and sharing will make the graphs available to anyone who has access to the URL. It's your web space, so you can delete the files yourself, for example using free FTP software. However, it's important to understand that you are responsible for these files. We do not make copies of these files, but anyone who accesses them could do so. You can choose to randomize the file names to try and add a layer of obfuscation to the files, but this will make it a lot harder for you to organize your web graphs later. This concludes this video tutorial for dbMacros. Please get in touch if you have any questions or encounter any issues.